In the winter of 2018, Epic Games handed Fortnite players the power of a god. It was a weapon so strong it could shred through buildings in one swing and make its wielder practically immortal. This wasn't just another powerful gun. This was a mythic mistake that would go down in history as the most overpowered, game-breaking weapon Fortnite has ever seen. This is the story of the Infinity Blade, the weapon Fortnite had to delete forever. To really get the level of chaos we're talking about, you have to remember what Fortnite was like back in late 2018. Chapter 1, Season 7 had just kicked off. The game was at its absolute peak, and the meta was all about one thing: building. The skill gap between players was literally measured in how fast you could crank 90s, how instinctively you could throw up a 1x1 for cover, and how clean your edits were on opponents. Build battles were the heart and soul of Fortnite. They were these complex dances of strategy and raw mechanical skill, where outthinking and outbuilding your opponent was the path to a victory royale. The whole game, from gathering resources to how the weapons were balanced, was designed around this one central pillar. Players poured hundreds of hours into perfecting their building, making it a game of architecture just as much as a game of aim. Then, on December 11th, 2018, the V7.01 update dropped. A new POI, Polar Peak, emerged on the map, and right at its summit, stuck in a stone pedestal like a sword from a legend, was an item that would bring the entire ecosystem to its knees. Epic was about to introduce its first ever mythic item to the main game, and in doing so, they lit a fuse that made the whole community explode. The Infinity Blade was like nothing the game had ever seen. Seriously, it wasn't just a weapon. It was a total transformation. The second a player yanked that sword from the stone, their entire inventory dropped. You were all in on the blade, and only the blade. But what you got in return was, for all practical purposes, God mode. Instantly, the wielder's health and shields were maxed out to a wild 200 each, double the normal maximum. It also gave you a constant health regeneration of 1 HP per second, so any little bit of damage was erased in moments. And if that wasn't enough, every single elimination instantly refilled 50 of your effective health. You became a walking, self-healing tank. But the defense was only half of it. The wielder's movement speed was jacked up by 130%, making them way faster than anyone else on the blade had two attacks. The main swing was a brutal slash that hit players for 75 damage, a massive number for a melee weapon. More importantly, that same swing instantly destroyed any structure it touched. A single swing could wipe out a wall someone had just frantically built for protection. The alternate fire was a huge leap that sent you flying across the map, destroying everything in your path and dealing 25 damage in a big slam when you landed. This meant fall damage was a thing of the past, and your mobility was just off the charts. High ground, the most critical advantage in Fortnite, became totally meaningless. A player could be sitting in their metal skyscraper 1 second, and the next, the sword wielder would be right on top of them, having leveled the entire fortress to get there. The moment the blade went live, the game descended into pure chaos. Building, the core mechanic, was instantly broken. Why bother gathering materials and practicing edits when someone could delete your hard work with a single lazy swing? The fundamental skill of the game was suddenly useless. Matches just turned into a mad dash to Polar Peak. Whoever got the sword first was almost guaranteed a spot in the final circle, if not the victory royale itself. The game stopped being about strategy, aim, or building skill. It was all about who could grab the god weapon first. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Epic introduced the Infinity Blade on the exact same day as the North American Finals of the Winter Royale, a tournament with a $1 million prize pool. Pro players who had trained for months in a build-heavy meta were suddenly thrown into a complete lottery. The tournament became a joke. One player, Psalm, grabbed the blade and went on an unbelievable tear, racking up an insane number of kills in a single match, as other pros could only watch their builds and hopes disintegrate. The community backlash was immediate and deafening. Top streamers like Ninja and Tifu were furious, showing their massive audiences how one item had destroyed the game's competitive integrity overnight. Reddit and Twitter were flooded with clips of the sword's absurdity. Players felt betrayed. The game they'd invested so much time into had turned into a meme. This level of chaos is something we rarely see in gaming. It's a moment that goes down in history. And if you enjoy deep dives into wild gaming stories like this, Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It really helps the channel out, and you won't miss the next time we uncover a story like this. And hey, if you're feeling extra supportive, use my creator code in the item shop. The backlash was just too big to ignore. The community wasn't just complaining, they were in open revolt. The overwhelming majority of players hated the sword. It wasn't fun to play against, and it undermined the very thing that made Fortnite special. To their credit, Epic acted fast. Just 3 days after it appeared, on December 14th, 2018, they hit the emergency delete button. Epic posted a message on social media that was refreshingly honest. It read, "Hey folks, we messed up and rolled out the Infinity Blade overpowered slash without good counters, especially in the endgame. The Infinity Blade has been vaulted, and we are reevaluating our approach to mythic items. Thanks for calling us out on this." It was a huge lesson for Epic on the dangers of adding items that completely break the core rules of your own game. It was the first mythic weapon in the main game, and its spectacular failure shaped how all future mythic items were designed. For years, the blade stayed locked away, becoming a symbol of a time when Epic flew a little too close to the sun. Newer players would hear stories about the sword that broke Fortnite, while veterans would just nod, remembering the 3 days of pure, unfiltered madness. Its legendary status was cemented by how long it was gone, but that changed recently. In January of 2026, as part of a nostalgic throwback in a dedicated OG mode, the snow at Polar Peak melted, and the Infinity Blade returned. For a single weekend, from January 16th to January 19th, players could once again wield the infamous weapon. The hype was massive. Players jumped into the game to experience the myth, or for some, to relive the chaos. And just as quickly as it came, it was vaulted again. A temporary blast from the past to recreate that wild Season 7 experience before being locked away once more. This brief return just solidified its legacy. It was a weapon of unbelievable power, an item that gave its wielder the abilities of a demigod and tore down the very foundations the game was built on. It nearly ruined the competitive scene and sparked a community backlash so intense it forced the developers to publicly admit their mistake and vault it just days after it arrived. While it has made a brief, nostalgia-fueled return, its permanent home is the vault. It remains a testament to a wild experiment that went horribly wrong, and a story that Fortnite players will be telling for years to come. It really is the weapon that Fortnite had to delete forever. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments what you believe is the most overpowered weapon in Fortnite history. Was it the Infinity Blade, or does another item deserve that title? I'll see you in the next one.